Hey, what's up guys? Naam here. So I've been receiving so many questions concerning whether or not the $600 a week unemployment benefit would apply for people who are self-employed, independent contractors, or gig workers. So in this video, I wanted to give you guys an in-depth explanation about unemployment benefits, eligibility, how benefits are calculated, and what you got to do to get the extra $600 a week. Also at the end of this video, I'll do a Q&A of most frequently asked questions concerning self-employment and gig workers. So I'm actually making a series about unemployment benefits. This one's going to be more for people who are self-employed. If you're a regular employee at a company and you receive a W-2, there's going to be another video separately for you guys, so I'll post the link in the description below. So under the new CARE Act, which is the stimulus bill that everybody's familiar with, they signed something called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. This program is for people who typically don't qualify for unemployment benefits, such as self-employed workers, independent contractors, or gig workers. So before we start, I'm not telling you guys I'm an unemployment benefit expert. I've personally done countless hours on a specific topic. I also received unemployment in the past, so I kind of know a little bit how the system works. Each state has their own individual rules of who qualifies for unemployment and how much each individual may receive. I currently live in California, so most of my information will be based from there. But I imagine that most information that I will be sharing will be somewhat similar to most states. So first off, let's talk about what is the bare minimum that you need to qualify for unemployment. This doesn't matter if you're self-employed or you work for a regular employer. You have to be totally or partially unemployed through no fault of your own, be physically able to work, available to work, ready and willing to accept work immediately, and actively be looking for work. So let's say that you're an Uber driver who does this as a full-time job. So since Uber is not allowing drivers to drive right now, this prevents you from doing your job and you become unemployed at no fault of your own. But you may be physically and able and available to work, so this does qualify you for unemployment. Depending on the state that you live in, they have different rules on self-employed workers. Here in California, if you're self-employed and you receive a 1099, there's an option where you can put part of your pay into unemployment elective coverage. This helps pay for unemployment if in event you do become unemployed. Also, if you're formerly employed by an employer where you receive a W-2 in the past 5 to 18 months, they may have partially funded your unemployment on your behalf, so this will make you eligible for unemployment as well. So since typically self-employed or gig workers don't qualify for unemployment, with this new bill, there is a lot of confusion of how this whole thing is going to work out. So just take my information with a grain of salt. Even though I've been researching and reading multiple articles, looking at state unemployment websites, I'm just going to try to explain it the best way I possibly can so everyone can understand of what's going on. So even though you are watching this video, you should always double check with your state unemployment website just to make sure you have the most current information. So here's how unemployment benefits are calculated. There's usually a minimum amount that you have to make within a 12-month period. States, they typically have two different types of ways to figure out how much unemployment benefits you are qualified for: the base period and the alternate base period method. So typically with these methods, they look back at the past 12 to 15 months once you apply for unemployment benefits. Each quarter in the last 12 months, you have to earn a certain amount, and you also have to earn a certain amount for the total of the last 12 months. So for instance, in New York, you have to earn at least $2,600 in a quarter. And also in the last 12 months, you have to earn a total of 1.5 times greater than your high quarter. Alright, so hopefully I haven't lost you guys quite yet. So let me give you guys a real life example. This is going to be a very simple explanation, so it's going to be kind of different depending on your current situation. So let's say in the state of New York, the first quarter you made $0. The second quarter you made $260, and the third and fourth quarter you made $650. So if you take your high quarter, which is $2,600, times that by 1.5, that would equal $3,900. So since this is the bare minimum for New York, you probably get paid the lowest amount. So the more that you make, the more that you will earn up to the state maximum. So in New York, if you make anything less than $3,900 in your 12-month period, you would not be eligible for unemployment. Alright guys, so just keep in mind that this is just for state benefits. It is possible not to receive anything from the state, but you can also be eligible for the extra $600 a week for 4 months by the federal government. So hopefully I explained the eligibility of unemployment and how unemployment benefits are calculated simply enough so you can get a brief understanding of how this whole thing works. I know that unemployment can be more complicated than this, but this is the simplest way that I can explain it. Now let's talk about how long does unemployment benefits typically last. Depending on the state that you live in, most states they provide unemployment benefits up to 26 weeks, so just double check with your state to make sure how long does your state provide them for. So now let's talk about the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. This is the actual name of the program that allows self-employed, independent contractors, or gig workers to get that extra $600 a week. Just keep in mind that to receive the extra $600 a week, you have to be affected by this pandemic if you're a self-employed worker. So here I'm gonna list a few things that make you qualify for this unemployment assistance. You have to have been diagnosed or seeking a diagnosis, a member of your household has it, you're providing care for your family member or a household member who has it, you're the primary caregiver for your child because school is closed or daycare is closed, you're unable to reach your place of employment due to quarantine laws or was told by a medical provider, you're seeking part-time employment but you're affected by this pandemic, and individuals who don't have enough work history but is also affected by this pandemic. So I got all this information from the New York Labor Department website, so I'm not making this stuff up. So each state will have their own rule of who qualifies to get the extra $600, so just make sure to double check with your state. From what I understand, this pandemic unemployment assistance is for individuals who have been directly affected by this pandemic. If you are self-employed but you have no connection of who's ill or your business is not directly affected by this, then most likely you will not qualify. Alright, so now I'm gonna get into the Q&A portion of this video, and hopefully I can address most of the questions that I have been receiving. I know there's been a lot of specific and individual type questions, so continue to ask them in this video or other videos, and I try to get to them as fast as I can. If it's been more than 2 days and I haven't responded, continue to comment. I know I'm giving you guys permission to spam, but sometimes it gets lost into my feed. Where do I sign up for the additional $600 a week benefits? Depending on how your state conducts their applications, most of the time, all you gotta do is apply for unemployment as you normally would through your state unemployment website. You can usually sign up on the phone or on a web portal, but most unemployment centers are pretty backed up, so your best bet is to try to sign up earlier in the day online. So if you do decide to apply online, depending on the state website, they may have a drop-down feature where they list pandemic unemployment assistance. Make sure you check that if that's available. It is very possible when you sign up, it may seem like your application got denied, but depending on your state, you must be ineligible for regular unemployment until they give you an option to file for pandemic unemployment assistance. This is usually where they ask for more information and they may do an interview just to gather as much as they possibly can to determine your case. When do I get the extra $600? I wish this was a clear-cut answer. Some states, they say they're going to start dispersing the funds on April 5th. Some, they haven't mentioned a thing. It just really depends on the states on when they decide to disperse the funds. I wish there was a better answer for this. What if I'm a self-employed worker on a part-time basis or I do it inconsistently, but I do have a full-time or part-time job? Do I qualify for unemployment or the extra $600 a week? This is a very complicated question to answer because it really depends. So let's just say that you're a full-time employee. For instance, you're a grocery cashier and you drive Uber at night or during the weekends for some extra money. Since you're not able to drive for Uber anymore because Uber is suspending operations, you most likely won't qualify for unemployment because you do have a full-time job. Now let's say that you're a part-time worker as a grocery cashier, but you drive for Uber and you make a substantial amount of money. In this instance, depending on how much you may qualify for unemployment. Let me give you an example. Here in California, the maximum unemployment benefits that you can receive is $450 a week. If you make anything more than $450 in that given week, you will now receive unemployment benefits. So if your part-time job is bringing more than $450 a week, you will not qualify for unemployment. But if your part-time job is earning you less than $450 a week, then you may be eligible to get unemployment. But since you're still working part-time, you would just get a smaller check from the state. So if you do qualify for unemployment, you should receive the extra $600 a week as well. I know this could be a little bit unfair for someone who makes a little bit over the maximum and don't qualify for the $600, but for someone who makes $1 under $450, they can receive the $600. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is right now. What if I'm self-employed, but I became ill to the current pandemic? Will I qualify for unemployment benefits and the extra $600 a week? So if you do become ill, depending on the state that you live in, you may qualify for unemployment. Some states, they may qualify you for disability insurance. It just really depends on how the state categorizes you. But if you do become ill with the disease that's going on around right now, as long as you have medical documentation, you should be eligible for the additional $600 a week until you recover. What if I'm self-employed and my child or immediate family member becomes ill due to this current pandemic? What do I qualify for? If this is the case, you may be eligible for paid family leave, and you may be also eligible for the extra $600 a week until your family member recovers. If your state doesn't provide paid family leave, then they may provide unemployment benefits. But just keep in mind that you have to have proof that they are sick and they're required to stay at home under doctor's recommendations. But if you have to stay at home and your family member does end up recovering, but you cannot work your regular self-employed job anymore, then you may qualify for unemployment benefits from the state. I just became self-employed this year. Will I be eligible for unemployment benefits or the extra $600 a week? If you became self-employed this year and you have some work history with a regular employer who pays you a W-2, then you may be eligible to receive it because your employer probably has paid into the system. But let's just say that you're a new job seeker and you've only been self-employed for maybe a month or two this year. This gets a little bit more tricky because some states will not qualify you for unemployment because you don't have the necessary proof like a 1099. But some states like New York with inefficient work history under the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program, they would allow it. So it seems like it's a state-by-state basis whether or not they would allow it, so just double check with your state. If I'm self-employed but I get paid mostly in cash, do I qualify for any benefits? This really comes down to your record keeping. If you have no proof of how much money that you're actually getting paid, this will affect whether or not that you will be eligible for the state unemployment benefits. But let's just say that you work at a nail salon, and the salon had to be closed due to state orders. You may be eligible for the extra $600 a week, but not the state unemployment benefits due to insufficient pay records. I am a gig worker and I work for multiple companies. Who do I file as my last employer? I would say file with your last employer of where you made the most money. Since you're filing for unemployment for being self-employed, states they usually require for more information. And once they do, just explain your situation. I am self-employed, but I haven't worked this year. I'm currently on cash assistance. Do I qualify for the extra $600 a week? It really depends on how your state reports your employment. I would suggest just apply for unemployment anyways through your state's website because multiple sources say that the best way to qualify for the $600 a week is through filing for unemployment. Alright guys, so I think I probably covered about 90% of most people's questions. If you continue to have questions about self-employment, just let me know in the comments below and I try to get back to you as fast as I possibly can. If you guys want to learn more about personal finance, come hang out with me some more over here.